Right after work, Lisa went to the grocery store to cook a delicious dinner for her husband, David. And then she hurried home as soon as possible. The elevator didn't work, and Lisa had to walk up to the 25th floor with full bags. She went to the apartment and pressed the call button, but the call didn't work either. Turns out there was a power outage throughout the house. Lisa sighed heavily, took out the keys and opened the door. When she entered the apartment, she immediately heard someone talking in the bedroom. Lisa left her bags in the hallway, went to the bedroom door and began to listen. David said angrily, "Monica, why are you laughing? Lisa can come any minute. You have no idea what could happen." Monica replied, "You are so funnily afraid of your wife that it will make anyone laugh. Why are you so afraid of her? What can she do to you? Maybe you are afraid that she will kick you out of the house." David said, "She can easily kick me out of the house." Monica said, "Do you think she will do it? You have 2 children. I don't think she wants to be alone in this apartment with them. Or are you afraid of something else that I don't know?" Lisa wanted to go into the bedroom and make a fuss, but she changed her mind in time and decided to be patient. An inner voice told her not to. Lisa took a deep breath, counted to 10, and calmed down. She decided to wait and listen to the end of the conversation. David said dryly, "Monica, if only you knew her, you wouldn't be saying that now." Monica stated, "How scared I am. I'm trembling all over with horror. Sooner or later, your wife has to find out." David judiciously said, "Monica, you are right. But this should not happen here and not now. You better leave now. Honestly, leave. Lisa will be back from work now, and tomorrow we will meet again. You have no idea what might happen if she sees us here now." Monica confidently said and looked sternly at David, "But I'm not afraid of her. Let her see us. It's not me who should be afraid of her, but she should be afraid of me. David, this applies to you too." David scaredly asked, "What do you want me to say?" Monica said, "I want to say something that I don't like being used. Do you understand?" David said nervously, "Monica, who's using you? I love you. We'll be getting married soon. I'm only with Lisa now because I have a few more unresolved issues. In addition, we have 2 children. When I resolve all these issues with Lisa, everything will be over, just you and me, and there's no one between us. So stop lying down, get dressed. I have to make the bed so that Lisa won't notice anything, and you're not dressed yet." Monica said, "David, by the way, today is the anniversary of our acquaintance." David pitifully said, "Wonderful. Let's go to a restaurant now and celebrate our anniversary there. I asked you to get out of bed and get dressed. Why are you torturing me?" Monica said, "David, I'm not going anywhere. I've been waiting for this for a long time and won't leave until I figure it out. Darling, today your wife will know everything about us, whether you like it or not." David yelled at her, "Are you out of your mind? I'm not even registered in this apartment. This is Lisa's apartment, and you want to tell her everything. What's next? Where will we live? In your rented apartment or with my mom in another city?" Monica was surprised. "What does Lisa's apartment mean? And why are you not registered in it? Why didn't you tell me this before?" David was genuinely surprised. "Why? You love me not for this apartment, do you?" Monica said, "Of course not. But darling, it's important to have an apartment these days." David joyfully shouted, "I understand you, and I have a plan." Monica asked, "What's your plan?" David said, choking with delight, "I thought of everything. This is my wife's apartment. She bought it before her marriage to me. Lisa and I will sell this apartment and buy another bigger apartment. And it turns out that we will buy a new apartment together with her. You understand me?" Monica said, "Yes, I understand everything." David happily said, "That's great. My girl, now get out of bed, get dressed, and we'll go. Where are your tights? Where did you put them? Why, you have a habit of throwing pantyhose under the bed." Monica said, "Okay, you convinced me. I'll get out of bed and get dressed, and we'll go to a restaurant." Lisa was shocked by what she heard and realized that she needed to leave as quickly and quietly as possible so that her husband and his mistress would not notice her. Lisa thought very quickly. She quietly returned to the hallway, quietly took the bags of groceries, quietly left the apartment, quietly closed the door behind her, and went upstairs. Lisa stood on the common loggia and looked down. She waited until David and Monica left the entrance. She then returned to her apartment. She silently walked to the living room, sat on the sofa and thought, looking at the TV turned off. She is brave. I wonder how old she is. And what did my husband see in her? She's stupid apparently. She must be very beautiful. I would be curious to see her. Okay, I can still do this. David came home somewhere at the beginning of the first hour of the night. He told his wife that he was late at work, but Lisa decided not to make a scandal right away. But she didn't want to wait until morning either. Lisa said, "Darling, this is all nonsense. A colleague at work offered me a wonderful apartment today. We have long waited to buy a bigger apartment, but we don't have enough money. Can you borrow money from someone?" David said, "I don't have anyone to borrow from." Lisa sadly said, "Then we will be left without an apartment. We will continue to live in this apartment. In a week, the children will return from their grandmother. That will be nice." David asked, "Can we find an apartment that we have enough money for?" Lisa said angrily, "But I don't want another apartment. I want the apartment they offered me. So think, my love. Either we stay here or look for the money." This is the first time David has seen his wife so angry. He realized that Lisa was not joking, and David began to think about who he could borrow money from. He remembered that his mistress Monica had told him that she was saving money for her own apartment, and he decided to ask her for money tomorrow. In the morning, he came to his mistress. For 3 long hours, David tried to persuade Monica to lend him the money. Moreover, he begged her. He crawled on his knees in front of her. He reassured her that they were doing the right thing, and in the end, he convinced her. Monica believed that she would get much more after David's divorce. In the evening, he returned home. David joyfully shouted, "Darling, I found the missing amount." Lisa calmly said, "Why are you shouting it?" And she thought to herself, "You are lucky with your mistress. You definitely deserve each other." David said, remembering how he crawled at Monica's feet and begged her to lend him money, almost crying, "Darling, you can't imagine how difficult it was." Lisa interrupted him. "Well done. Tomorrow we can make a deal." David asked her, "Do you need me there?" Lisa said, "I don't think you're needed. I'm selling my apartment, so all I need is my signature. And I don't need you to buy another apartment either, since I can handle it myself." David said, "That's good." And he thought to himself, "I see you are the most cunning, and I'm not a simple person. You can register an apartment for yourself as much as you like, but after the divorce, half will still be mine." Lisa sold her old apartment and bought a new one, which she registered with her mother. She explained to her mother the reason for such an act. David and Monica were celebrating their success at Monica's apartment when the doorbell rang. Monica said, "I wonder who came. It's probably the owner of the apartment. She came for money. Sit here. I don't want her to see you. You can watch TV for now." David turned on the TV. He found his favorite channel and started watching without distraction. Lisa said, "Hello, I'm Lisa, David's wife. I have long wanted to meet you. Today I specifically tracked you down with David and decided to visit you. May I come in?" Monica said in confusion, "Come in." "That's great. It's good that you are such a simple and sweet woman. I don't like all those scandals so much. What could be worse than sharing a man among themselves? Can I take off my boots? My legs are tired." "Yes, of course. Come into the kitchen, please." Lisa went to the kitchen, looking at the apartment with interest. Monica said, "Shall I call David?" Lisa calmly said, "No need. Monica, I came to you. I no longer need David. He is now yours entirely. I'm happy for David, honestly." Monica asked in confusion, "Why are you happy for him?" Lisa exclaimed, "Well, how? After all, he marries you, leaving me. And in our time, getting married at 40 without having an apartment is possible only out of great love." Monica was surprised. "How is it that he doesn't have an apartment? I know for sure that you sold your apartment and bought a new one, and this means that it also belongs to David since you bought it in marriage. And it turns out that David is not a disadvantageous groom at 40 years old. Lisa said, "Yes, I did sell my apartment, but I didn't buy a new apartment." Monica scaredly said, "You didn't buy an apartment? And David told me what you bought." Lisa said, "David is a dreamer. As a child, he read a lot of fairy tale and fantastic literature. You don't listen to him." Lisa revealed all the details of the deal. She said that she heard their conversation that day in her apartment. Monica's surprise and resentment knew no bounds. Lisa looked at her watch and said, "I have to go. I was glad to meet you, Monica. Say hello to David, and we will solve all unresolved problems with him during the divorce, about alimony and other things." "Monica, why are you silent? I understand you. You need to think things through now. So much has fallen on you right now. Don't follow me." Lisa is gone. When Monica entered the room, David knew from her face that something terrible had happened. Lisa lives with her children in her mother's new 3-room apartments. David pays alimony for 2 children and lives with Monica in her rented studio apartments. Monica is expecting a baby. David tried to prove in court that Lisa owed him something, but he failed. His evidence base against Lisa was too weak. He spent a lot of money on lawyers for nothing.